Welcome to Honestly Rated, and today we'll be taking a look at your favorite Toy Story villain, Blaster Tron, and taking a look at his moveset and overall design to figure out if he's good or bad, honestly. First thing I want to talk about Blaster Tron is his lore. Blaster Tron was a villain back in Trap Team, and he is now a good guy, so how did that even become? Well, Blaster Tron is a robot, and luckily for whoever the manufacturer was, they decided to input a switch that says good or bad. And all they had to do was flip it to good, and now he's good. Who would have guessed? He decided he was going to ditch that old gun thing he had back in Trap Team, and decided to pick up this sword, which, honestly, was a good choice. The sword looks badass. Last thing I want to talk about before we move on to Blaster Tron's moveset is that if you want to see your Skylander next on Honestly Rated, leave it down in the comments. It helps me a lot just to kind of know what Skylanders you guys want to see next. And if you're not sure what Skylander I've already done, there is a playlist on my channel that I will also leave in the description. But with all that out of the way now, we can move on to Blaster Tron's moveset and figure out if it's good or pretty mediocre. Kicking us off, we have Saber Slash and Hologram Field. And I also want to preference something with senseis themselves. They do a lot of damage. And with that, I'm not going to base my rating off of how much damage they can do because of it. So it's going to be more based off of their design and how well everything combos together. And I'll talk about it a bit more, but let's get on to the moves. So Saber Slash and Hologram Field. Saber Slash is our sortie. We are doing a physical attack that also has a range element combined with it. There's little beams that shoot off in 1, 2, and then 3 based off of the combo, and it works both pretty well in both ways, I won't lie. The sword does more, obviously, than the projectile, but you can clear out some big, like small groups like Chompies and stuff like that with the projectiles, and you can't really clear out much else with it. Then we have the Hologram Field, which is also really nice, that combos pretty well with the sword for two reasons. For one, it is a slower. It slows down enemies, and it also weakens them by doing chip damage. Then, the other reason I really like it, though, is that it actually sucks in enemies into one place, which allows you to smack people with your sword. It works pretty well together, well defined, and they fit pretty well with his character. Like this is pretty gosh darn good. So, we're starting off pretty strong with Blaster Tron, I won't even lie. The first thing we can buy are called Taser Tethers, which is actually our special move, and this is really well worked into his moveset. Taser Tethers are two rockets linked up by one laser in the middle, that the laser can break if one of the rockets go too far, or if you hit an enemy that has a shield to it, so like a Bone Chompy with the little helmets on. And the reason I say that this works really well with his moveset is because Hologram Field actually determines on how fast you're going to be able to shoot this. If you just shoot this normally, it'll go out and it'll get bigger as time goes on, but it won't hit as many things just because it's going so fast. But if you put a hologram down, then decide to shoot your Taser Tethers, they'll actually slow down to extreme margins that will shrink it so it doesn't get as big, but it'll end up lingering a lot longer and hit a lot more things if you're able to keep them in that exact zone. And I find that extremely cool. And something else you can do with the slow downness is that if you put out another Taser Tether kind of close to it, it'll actually link up with the previous one and make even more lasers, which I find extremely cool. Blaster Tron is an extremely flashy character that has a lot of moves that kind of hit a lot of things, and you're going to notice it as time goes on. But this is even the first one is extremely cool, and I find that honestly, honestly cool. I think not a lot of Skylanders out there have like that type of property to them, so at least we can give them this. But let's go check out the other upgrades, because we have a lot. Next up is going to be a wombo combo of many things with Energy, Extender, and Saber Sweep and Field Follower. Now, that sounded like 3 things I'm talking about there, but it's honestly only 2 upgrades. One upgrade has 2 things in them that are pretty cool. So, we'll talk about Energy Extender because that's the one that I really don't care about as much, is because it's a damage upgrade to our hologram little orb thing. And the way we do this is by shooting one of our lasers into it, and it slowly, very minusculely gets bigger. The reason I don't really care for it is that senseis are the strongest characters, like I said before, so giving them a damage upgrade is kind of just like a, I don't know even, just like a thank you card for doing something. Like it's just like, alright, like I don't really care. But the other one makes up for it with basically 2 different moves. This was like, we have 1 extra primary path upgrade because of it. So if we hold down our primary or secondary, we can do one of two things. If we hold down our primary, we'll be able to charge our sword up and do a big slash that for one knockback with insane knockback, let me add you. It is like 50 feet in front of me and I still do the knockback. It's insane how much knockback there is. But then if you do your secondary, it's more of a defensive option. It allows you to put a hologram over yourself, and like I said before with the lasers, it also applies to this one. And you get to move around with it. It is a moving hologram with you. It lasts for a good short while, but it still is enough to just kind of chip at a lot of enemies, especially bigger ones. So yeah, personally I don't care about the energy one, but I definitely think that the other one with 2 moves put into it is pretty cool. I like the added options to it. The knockback is fun. I like knocking back things. It's a lot of things in one. We're having a lot of fun here. And to put the cherry on top, sharper sabers are lasting in our primary path, gives us even more things to combo into each other. So this is a combo based move where you have to press primary twice and then one of the other buttons, and it adds on to Blastertron's combo ability with these moves. If you were to press primary circle or primary special into secondary, you are going to do a force pull move, I would say. You stick out your sword and some blocky goodness comes out and brings an enemy towards you that stuns them, which lets you set up maybe a hologram. Maybe you want to throw out some tethers, you know, something like that. And then almost the same idea with his triangle, lets you bounce up an enemy up, and again, you can do the same thing. You can run away, you can do all of this. Blastertron really gives you options to do stuff, and that's something I kind of want to preference before we go into the secondary. Blastertron has a lot of combo potential with all of his moves. I honestly don't think I've seen as much of a combo potential between a character as Blastertron. He has stunning, he has knockups, he has knockaways, he has a bunch of area damage, he has force pulls, he has basically anything you want. You asked for something, Blastertron's giving to you. It is actually kind of insane how much this guy really got. Out of like damage wise anyways, right? Like if we were never looking at damage, maybe he's doing like fucking pennies. He's hitting 1 damage. That is still extremely cool to see a character with so much kind of put into him. That it's fun to just kind of do something into something into something into something. It's really cool. So I'm really hoping that these next primary paths really add on to it and don't feel like they kind of overbeared us in the primary and then really couldn't think of anything into the secondaries. I'm really hoping that's not going to be the case, but there's only one way to find out. So let's head over to the top path first. To the top path with supremacy of lasers, we're going to deal with holographic helpers and software update first. Now, holographic helpers, I personally don't care for again, because it is an upgrade that lets Blastertron do even more damage than he already can. And again, like I said before, with the damage upgrade, senseis don't need it. So let's just void that one out of existence. And let's talk about the next one, software updates, which is actually, again, just adding even more layers to this character. So now with his combo-based moves, they can do more special things. Well, kind of. So the one that pulls in will now do an explosion right after, and then the one that brought people up lets them stay up for a little bit longer and do more damage. And overall, you know, it's a simple upgrade. It doesn't do nothing as crazy as the primary ones were, but it is still like a pretty nice thing to kind of see. Blastertron's a really flashy character, and design-wise, he's really well made. Like, if you've been noticing the gameplay, it almost feels like there's something on screen every time, right? Like there's something you can do, something I'm pulling off. You know, now even with the next ones too, like if you look at them, there's like little hexagons dropping on them. They're gonna get blown up. You got the hexagons going upwards to hold the enemies up to demonstrate that. Like, he is a very flashy guy, and I can respect that. That is like, it's extremely cool. But for upgrade wise and just kind of like how they're used and stuff, it isn't crazy. I do like him. I don't think I really needed it. Like, they're already doing a lot with, you know, stunning and fucking just holding him up already. Like, I don't know what else you can really pull out before they already drop. Like, it's not necessary. That's what I'm trying to add at. Like, it's really not necessary. But fuck it. Why not? Last up, we have Get to the Point, which you think would deal with his sword just based off a name like that. But but it actually doesn't. It deals with his little dingle fongle on top of his head, his antenna. And what it does is that randomly, at every so often, like it says, it will just kind of blast somebody. It's not the closest to you, it's not the furthest from you, it's just somebody. Somebody's getting smited by the antenna of Blastertron, and it hits every single time. It works pretty well. It is a cool upgrade. Design-wise too, it is very cool. I'm glad something like that, like just something on this character, actually got more of a use. I guess, you know, like the balls pop out of it, or he like presses on his head to like do the little jetpack move to place a hologram around him. But just giving him just even a little bit more with it is pretty cool, and I fuck with that majorly. So, you know, again, nothing, I wouldn't say like there was something like crazy strong up here, but it just adds on to him. Makes him deal more damage-wise with his sword and stuff like that. That, you know, not really needed, but fuck it, sure, cool, why not? On to the bottom path with Brighter Light Show, we have Rocket Fuel and Pocket Rockets. And just like the top path, this shit slaps. Rocket Fuel is performed by using a Field Follower, and all it does is add on more damage by letting you kind of hit enemies that are nearby with your rocket, with your little jet, because you fly around and shit comes out of it now, which is super cool. Just kind of like the antenna little thingle-dangle thing from the top path. It's just kind of adding onto something that design-wise Blastertron has. He has a jetpack, and you know, shit does come out of a jetpack that would hurt an enemy, and they're like, yeah, we'll just add that on as a bottom path, which is super cool. I fuck with that heavily as someone that likes seeing designs kind of pushed to their max, and Blastertron really was. I don't know what on his body doesn't get used, right? Literally, the rockets are his jetpacks too. Like, that's super cool. I enjoy just seeing more things just getting added onto it on top. That's awesome. Then for our second one, it allows us to shoot a tethered rocket into the hologram, which is just the exact same pairing that I talked about in the beginning that you got to see. And now littler rockets spawn out of it and don't really target enemies. They kind of go to the nearest one if it's close. If they're not close, it usually just hits the ground. So not like super busted strong where you can just spam a bunch of them in there and it'll start targeting all these enemies and hitting them for a bunch of damage. No, it doesn't do that. But if you do get a bunch of enemies that come close to you, you can do that then. So yeah, they're cool. I like it. They're both two cool moves. And again, maybe this is like the best place to see it. A lot of damage can happen. It can be done between just like an orb itself. It's super cool to see. Last up is going to be Lights Out, and this is just a upgrade to our hologram. It makes it actually get bigger, which you can see a lot better now. And now there's like a little circle under it that when it hits the wall will cause a mini explosion inside. That does, you know, some solid damage. It happens twice, it says. I don't really see it happening twice, but that's what it says. And it's just, again, more added on damage that realistically you don't really need for a Blastertron. You don't really need for any Sensei. But it is cool to have. And you can kind of notice the top and bottom pass kind of having somewhat of the same features, but not really. They do deal with the two things that they talked about. The bottom path dealt with the hologram and the tethers. Top path just really wanted to home in into how much sword shit can we do. And that's super cool. And if I had to say, I would say the top and bottom path are pretty much equal between which way you want to play. It's up to you at that point. Do you like just throwing out orbs and throwing out the tether shit and just kind of being more range based? Then go with the bottom path. Do you like doing more sword play and being close to people and not really caring about the holograms and stuff? Go with the top path. I don't think any of them overbear what the bottom or top could do. And you can still do some pretty nice combos because of the primary. The primary is a really nice setup, which then lets the secondaries to not be as cool, I would say. They're not as cool as the primaries could be, but I physically don't know what else you could do with the guy. They really pushed him to his limits, and that is amazing. But we do still have one more, which is his Soul Gem and his Sky Chi, so I guess we can go take a look at those too. And his Soul Gem beaming with Delight is pretty solid. It's something that you would probably see on the top path, and you know what, I even dare say the primary just because of how crazy the primary is. It allows you to charge up your sword even more and basically become a Beyblade and just spin around and shoot a bunch of projectiles outwards, which is pretty cool. Blastertron already has a lot, so saying this was like amazing, crazy, way better than everything in this kit is really hard to say. It's really not. It's honestly kind of on par with it. And is it like crazy? Is it like something Soul Gem worthy? Yeah, probably. I would say so. So, yeah, I'll give this Soul Gem a nice thumbs up. Last thing up is Kaiju Believe It's Skychi, which personally I'm not gonna really use Skychi as like a benefit or deficit, but I definitely think it's the lamest thing of Blastertron. He turns into just a bigger model of himself and stomps the ground and has killer beats in the background. I guess it's like, I guess whatever, you know. It is just the lamest thing because when you put Kaiju Believe It, you expect like maybe like some type of different appearance, but no, he just gets bigger and then just stomps the ground with some music and his little antenna thing going wacko crazy mode. It's fine, but whatever. So, after taking a look at everything Blastertron had and every single software update he ever got, I'm going to give Blastertron, the first one in honestly rated history, a 5 out of 5. And don't get it twisted, it's not damage. I personally could care less about how much damage he's doing. If a character's fun and the moveset he has and the design and the well-thoughtness of the character, that is more than enough for me to be. And if Blastertron was doing 20 damage, if he was doing 10 damage, and he wasn't able to kill easily, but he still had everything to launching, to knocking up people, to stunning them, to having hold moves, having combo moves, having long range, short range, fucking everything you want, area damage, AoE, like stuff like that. Yeah, I would still play Blastertron. It doesn't matter to me. And his paths are so well-rounded. If you wanted to see a 5 out of 5, something that I would personally say, honestly, kind of surpassed a 5 out of 5, right? Like, this character honestly did super well for himself. This is it. This is what I want to see a character do. You can literally give this to anyone, and they'll have fun. Literally anyone. And they will have fun. They will find their way to play, and will enjoy it no matter what. But, to be fair, that's what I think. And you should leave down what you think below. Tell me, if you were like me, and honestly rating this character, what would you give it? I would love to hear. And again, if you want to see your Skylander next, just leave it down in the comments. I'll make sure to keep a note of it somewhere. And at some point in time, I'll eventually do it, because I will go through the whole cast and character, doesn't matter how long it takes. But thank you for staying with me for this full thing. I'll be back next Saturday again with another Honestly Rated. That's when I do them, every Saturday. And yeah, maybe yours will be next. But go check out the playlist if you want to see more. I am Project. This was Honestly Rated, and I hope to see you again. Peace.